All right, welcome back. I'm Dave, and this is Save America, Vote Tulsi Gabbard. Quick little video here. The Russian propaganda stuff against Tulsi Gabbard has really ramped up in the last few days against myself, against people who I know are Americans who love their country, people who are soldiers, people who are working class folks, people who are looking for Medicare because they can't afford health insurance, people who want better education, people who want vocational training, people who want a better economic situation in the city that is under siege because Democratic mayors just gentrify and make their city look nice, but they don't do anything for the poorest Americans living in those places. These are the people that are supposedly all Russian bots. People that support Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders to some degree. It's just amazing. And the media cannot get out of its own way when it when it comes to truth and facts, and instead they start to smear. And people within the Democratic Party who are most likely operatives who probably work in some capacity for people like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, who likes to steal ideas from Tulsi Gabbard, okay, or possibly Elizabeth Warren, who doesn't want to speak to all Americans, where I'm glad Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, called her out on that. This stuff about Fox News is ridiculous, okay? This idea that a network can provoke people to hate in a way that is exclusive, which rises to a certain level, is hogwash, okay? It's an absolute travesty. And as somebody who used to watch Fox on a regular basis, yeah, there are people over there conditioned to think a certain way, but this idea that if your thought doesn't match this other person's thought, then one of you is a hater. And that's Elizabeth Warren's campaign. Go for it. If that's the road you want to go on, you don't want votes from all Americans, then so be it. Tulsi Gabbard, on the other hand, wants votes from everybody. And that is why apparently she's been branded as Putin's puppet. This is what you're going to hear. Vladimir Putin's puppet. I don't know what to say anymore about this. Because it's gone beyond, you hear about like Trump derangement syndrome. I think now we can officially say, in addition to Trump derangement syndrome, there's also Vladimir Putin derangement syndrome. It's right there. It's right up there. This idea that Russia, not China, by the way, think about that for a second. You can make a much better case for China than you can for Russia. But nobody, of course, is going to touch them. Saudi Arabia. You could make a case that Saudi Arabia is steering candidates in certain directions, including the current president of the United States. Israel. Oops. Third rail time. So Israel. You could make the case that Israel could be steering our current president in a certain direction and may want to influence the outcome of the election because they're just as guilty as anybody else. But it's Russia, okay? What's weird is the old-time Democrats that I grew up with when, the Cold War was raging, they were trying to be agents of change for peace. And eventually Reagan, Gorbachev, all that stuff, tear down this wall. It all took place. And then Russia became a little more, they became less communist, obviously, and more sort of free market and controlled free, whatever you want to call it. They're certainly not practicing the stuff they used to practice, which did lead to a lot of folks losing their freedom and being in poverty and so forth. And now that their country seems to be doing a little bit better, it seems as though the current Democratic establishment, as well as the Republican establishment, have kind of lost it. They've kind of lost it. So, again, Vladimir Putin is not our problem. Vladimir Putin as a meme is not a criticism of Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard has nothing to do with Vladimir Putin. And how do I know that? Because I just do. How's that? Because it's fake. Like the hoax where it says, there was no collusion, and you can highlight that line over and over again. There was no evidence of collusion. That's what it says, but the media continues to go and go and go with that. Gaslighting, brainwashing, but it's really some unprecedented gaslighting. And now it's happening to Tulsi Gabbard's supporters. And I think it was Status Quo, Jordan, who said this is going to happen to Bernie Sanders and his supporters. Bernie gets some traction. Bernie becomes a threat. He's a Russian agent. Bernie Sanders. Oh, how are they going to make that connection? Well, Bernie, is a self-described democratic socialist. Socialist. Ooh, that's the word. That's the trip word. Socialist, Russia. Russia was once communist. And we connect the dots. So Bernie, has been like a big fan of old-time Russian communism, which he's not. But that's how they're going to connect the dots. With Tulsi, it's just that Tulsi's foreign policy is wacky. She doesn't think we should go into Venezuela, and Vladimir Putin thinks we shouldn't go into Venezuela. So there's your conspiracy. Same with Syria. Russia says, I don't think there were, those chemical weapons were used. And by the way, reports have come out in the last few days which have confirmed that Tulsi Gabbard and probably Vladimir Putin were both right. Now, they can't be both right, because that means that, Putin and Tulsi are working together, hand in hand. And, if Tulsi somehow gets a bunch of votes because she's polling at 1 or 2%, which will show that the polls are wrong. And again, the Russians messed it up because we had her polling at 2% and then she won the primary. That's impossible. It has to be Putin who's going to affect the outcome of the primary. See where all this is heading? It's a no-win. I mean, we've got to go third party. We've got to go underground. We've got to network with ourselves, and we can't even talk to these idiots who are over on Twitter who have been given some sort of marching order or talking point. Hey, that guy? He's got a channel. Get him. Because too much of this stuff is getting out there, and he's getting monetized, and he keeps making videos. Somebody needs to take him down. And it's not going to be just me. It's going to be anybody who goes after the establishment. It's that simple. The establishment is protecting itself, and it has no weapons in its arsenal. So you know what it does? It makes crap up. And it makes everybody Russophobic. Unbelievable. In the year 2019, the Cold War is back. It's back. It's a fake Cold War, but it's back. And meanwhile, Trump's all busy trying to look tough when it comes to Putin. Pompeo's over there with Lavrov, and we're going to talk Sergei down because we don't want to get along with Venezuela, and we don't want to get along in Syria, and we don't want to get along in Iran, and we're trying to ramp up operations all over the place because we need the empire and we need the military-industrial complex to expand. And you've got this candidate who calls it all out. And that's why she's a Russian agent now. So it started that way. Early on, MSNBC, NBC News, they did a hit piece on her. And it looks like the Russians have a new puppet. No. If you think Tulsi Gabbard is a puppet of anyone, then you don't know Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is the last person in this campaign that would be a puppet for anyone. Anyone. Including people who may be, good actors, who aren't bad actors, who are maybe helping her campaign out. I think if you say something that goes against what she believes, you're of no use to her at that point. And she's not going to be your puppet or anyone's puppet. So let that sink in. You think Tulsi Gabbard is anyone's puppet? You're crazy. You're crazy. And that's how I'm going to end the video. Think about that. See you soon.